Well, welcome to another live stream. Set this up here so you can see what's going on. Open this up. Give me just a moment, getting everything prepared here. Today we're going to be checking the wheel bearings on the inside, physically checking the wheel bearings inside, and tire condition on this Opus Light. There we go. So I keep track of the chat. So I know it's not the greatest view, but it is what it is. So let's see here, how do I want to start this thing? So I lifted this up the other day and had some free play. So something in here is not right on this Opus. I've taken it out a few times and I've not been the kindest to it. I've been down some pretty nasty roads, dry river beds, really steep crossings, downhills, uphills, a lot of different scenarios. Been in the 110-degree temperatures down to 60-degree temperatures, so it's been through quite a lot. And I'm not the first one to have used this. This is owned by Opus. It's their Opus Light prototype. But before I take it out again, I am planning another trip with Adam again, and I want to figure out what's going on, why there's free play, which I'll show you here in just a moment. Figure out what that free play is from, because the last thing I want is while I'm going down the road this tire to come off. So first things first, let me take you off this tripod here. Oops. Go. Let me show you where I'm jacking it up from. So I've got a floor jack placed underneath the trailing arm there, and I'm going to just raise it up to get a couple inches on the ground. I do have these just in case. They're not actually snug. And then on the other side I do have wheel chocks, and I have the parking brake completely released, as I need to be able to spin this and get the drum off. If I have the parking brake on, I'll never get the drum off. So without further ado, let's lift it up and get started. So show you what's going on here. I'm going to come around the back. So this could be a simple repair. It could be something as simple as wheel bearings just out of adjustment, or it could be that the wheel bearings I was just too hard on and they're now needing to be replaced. But the best way to find out is to take them apart and find out. How's that view? That's good, a lot closer. So I won't be so well in the picture, but oh, I haven't done this in so long, I forgot something important. Loosen the lug nuts. So drop it back down, nice and slow though. There we go. Okay, so I've got a 1/2-inch drive 19mm socket, a 1/2-inch drive extension, a 1/2-inch drive breaker bar. Now, taking them off, there is no order. It's putting them back on that there is actually an order to putting them back on. It does matter. And I'm just going to where they're loose. I'm not taking them all the way off, because if I did that, the whole thing would fall on the ground, and that would be bad. I was an auto mechanic 23 years ago. It's been a little while. The other tools I got a flathead screwdriver, needle nose pliers, angle cutters, got a framing hammer, rubber mallet. This isn't the best pry bar for getting the seal off on the rear or inner wheel bearing, but it'll work. And last but not least, towards the end of the job, well, not last, but I have a torque wrench for tightening the lug nuts properly and evenly. I got some rags because dealing with wheel bearings, there's going to be grease in there that's really icky and nasty. I am wearing the best of my clothes, already greasy. I've got a hole in my pants all over the place, but they're the best clothing for this job because grease is going to get everywhere. So here we go. Raise it back up again. Okay. Well, I don't know if you can hear it. I do live on a shared driveway next to a very busy road. Let's see if you can hear this. It's a bit of a rubbing in there. That's a good thing. That's the shoes just barely touching the drum. Not a bad idea. A little bit more would be good. You can see that it spins for a while. These technically need to be adjusted also. But we're not going to do that today. It's another ball of wax. And it can be done with a tire and everything on. Make sure they're all loose. Yep. There we go. So now I'm going to take off the breaker bar. We're going to completely remove the lug nuts. I've got a couple of rags here. Take one and I'm going to put the lug nuts on the rags so they don't roll away. That's always a bummer of having to go to the tire shop. Hey, I lost a lug nut. You got one you can sell me? So again, I've got free play in these wheel bearings. It's not a lot, but it's a little bit, but any amount is not good. So that's what we're going in after today, is find out what that's all about. And while I'm in there, I'm gonna more thoroughly inspect the tread and also inspect the sidewalls for, you know, if I hit a rock or something. Sometimes the tire can go defective, you get a bulge. A bulge sticking out, a little one, is not good. A little bit of a bulge going in is not bad, it's not a big deal. But I'm also going to look for gouges from rocks, chunks missing from the tread and whatnot that might need to be addressed. Now's a great time because I don't have the tire all the way off. I can be very thorough in the inspection. I do have the chat going on another computer. I can kind of see it, so feel free to drop some comments in there. Okay, so now off comes the tire. So I was just mentioning, I'm going to be looking, run my hand across it and visually looking for, you know, chunks where a rock is taking its toll on the tire. I'm also going to be looking for bulges that go outward. Those are bad. That usually means the steel belt or whatever the plies are separating. Going in, that's pretty common to see a little dent going inward, not a problem. Looking for excessive amounts of dust. I'm probably going to wash this off because it will cause a little vibration. If there's too much in there, that could cause it to vibrate a lot and could technically prematurely wear the bearings, but that's getting awfully particular specific. Alright, so here's the dust cap, first part of this. Let's clean it up because we don't want dust and stuff going in there. On the off chance these are just out of adjustment, I've got to put it back and not have it contaminated from all the dust. Okay, so next, I've already gone in here and pulled this off a little bit to make sure to set things up, but this is more closely what you'd see. This dust cap should be snug all the way around up against the drum. So I'm taking the screwdriver and I'm just going to start opening it up. I'm not hitting very hard at all. If you hit too hard, you will very likely dent this dust cap. And now I'm going to twist the screwdriver while rotating, and the dust cap should come off. There it is. Put it face down, keep the dirt, crap, and corruption out of there. Hey, how's it going there, Brooke? So next, here's what you're going to see. You've got a cotter pin holding the lock nut and a washer inside there. So we're going to pull off this cotter pin, back this nut off, which I just realized I didn't grab a wrench for that, so I'll have to run away and grab one of those, but it's just over in the other trailer. So we'll pull this off and let's see what's in there. For all I know, it might be really loose. I can just pull it off by hand. I'm not going to be too delicate with this cotter pin because ultimately I'm going to completely replace it with a brand new one. You can reuse these a couple of times, but I'm not a big fan of doing so. Again, I'm going to set or like everything else, I'm going to set that on the towel also. Oh, perfect. This actually comes off by hand. I don't have another towel here. Oh, there it is. My hands clean. So, castle nut. When you look at it, it looks kind of like the top of a castle with all the little ports you used to fight from. Castle nut. Set that on the towel. And then I'm going to wiggle it up and down and pull out slightly, slowly, because these are going to come out very easily. Here's the inner washer, which now definitely has to be wiped off because I just dropped it on the ground. And the outer bearing. grease is slippery. I wonder why. So I'm gonna wipe this all off because again I don't want any dirt, crap, or corruption getting up in there. That's really bad. There we go. There's the washer. Now here's the wheel bearing. This is the part we really want to look at. Well, this is the race. So when I'm looking at the wheel bearing, I'm looking for discoloration, like some rainbow pattern or like burn marks where it would look like it was roasted. I'm not seeing any of that. You can see this, but it looks like chrome, and that's what we want. So that's a good sign. Getting distracted by the blowing tarp. Next, this is going to be the hard part. I don't know if I can show you this. There's a bearing race on the inside, and what that is it's a hardened piece of metal that fits in, it's pressed into the drum, and it's got the same angle as the wheel bearing. And when you push the wheel bearing in, the wheel bearing rides on the race and spins. The wheel bearing spins, the race does not. So as I looked on here, I was looking for discoloration. I'm going to be looking on the wheel race also for the same stuff. And I'm not really seeing any. There's no gouges, there's no flaking. So let's pull this off. Here's the wheel drum. It is off. So here's the inside of the here's the inside of the wheel drum. This is your rear brakes. So what I'm going to be looking for on the brakes, these are shoes. I'm going to be looking for heat cracks. I don't really see any, but what I am seeing is a little buildup of dust. So I'm going to take some sandpaper and scuff these down. The other thing I'm going to be looking for is this way. Let me get this battery out of it over here. That's showing the whole wheel drum or shoe, top and bottom. You want to see the amount of wear to be pretty even. If not, these are pretty far out of adjustment, and what you can do is two things. One, replace the shoes, or two, adjust them, use them, but you're going to have to adjust them more often or several times in a short period of time, because the thicker part is going to start to wear more than the thin part. You want them to wear evenly. The more evenly, the better. Now I'm also, let's see if I can pick this up and hold it in front of you. I'm going to pick up the wheel drum, which is rather heavy, and just like I did on the shoes, I'm going to be looking on the steel for cracks, heat cracks. What'll happen oftentimes on these is one of two different things in my experience. One is people leave the parking brake on to drive away, build up a lot of heat. Or two, your trailer brake gain is turned up too high, meaning the trailer's doing part of the braking for the truck or the SUV or whatever you're hauling with. Both of which are no good. If you do find cracks, have them assessed, have them addressed, whatever you want to call it, say. Have somebody look at them and tell you if they're still salvageable or if you need to have them replaced. I'm not really seeing any major problems, so let's go ahead and check this inner bearing, which means I got to pull out the seal. Never enjoyed doing that, but we're going to do it. Now, if you own a shop and run a shop and all that, you have all kinds of specialty tools. Me, I don't have those things. So we're going to make do with my old framing hammer. Let's see if you can see what's going on. So sticking the hammer claw inside between the bearing and the seal right here, and I'm going to try and pry this seal out of here and work it out. It's only pressed in there, and it's not pressed in. You can press it in with a hammer if you're careful, so it should come right out. Let's see if we can get this to work. Yep, there it went. So here is the inside, what the bearing sees of the seal. There's what actually contacts the wheel drum. And here's what would be on the inside of the drum, outside of the drum. Anyway, that's all dust from the road. This is now garbage, by the way. I definitely have to replace this. Once you pry it out like that, you can't reuse it. But they're cheap, and I'd rather have a thorough inspection than and replace the seal. So I'm going to wipe out any dirt, crap, or corruption that might have fallen in there before I pull out the bearing. Just going to get rid of some of this extra grease. said, this is where it starts to get pretty icky. That's part of the reason I stopped working on cars. Yeah, yum. All kinds of grease. Okay. Set that aside. Now let's pull out this bearing. It just lifts right out. Same thing. I'm looking for discoloration. I'm looking for like a rainbow pattern, or browning, burning, peeling, chipping, anything that looks abnormal. For the most part, what I'm seeing looks pretty good. So, looking to me like we caught this in time. It hasn't been loose very long. I don't see any major damage. Now, just like on the other bearing race, I'm going to check the inner bearing race also. If you haven't done this before or don't have a shop, taking the races out and putting in new ones, probably something you want to take it to a local shop and have them press the race, remove and press new races in. Because those you got to get a punch, either use a press or take a punch, and you got to kind of work it around for quite a while you press it in, because you can't just press one side in all the way. You got to work it around, and that can take quite a while. Pull out all this extra grease, just on the off chance some of this dust from in here fell off into the bearing area here. I'm going to make sure it stays nice and clean. This is now like just really greasy. Just file that away over there. So I don't see any major damage. It makes me feel pretty good about these. I wonder if I have a knife on me. See if I can cut several rags as opposed to use one and having it getting contaminated over and over again. Spindle, I'm going to wipe it completely clean. Wheel drum out of the way. Man, that thing's heavy. Wipe out all the dirt, crap, and everything from the side here. We'll get the bulk of it, and I'll come back with a, I hate to say sterile rag, but a cleaner rag. Wipe it off a little better. Definitely don't get any grease on any of the brake parts. Let's get another one. It'll be a little more thorough this time. I'll go in like reverse order. Alright, what I'm going to do at this point is run and grab a piece of sandpaper. We're going to scuff up the shoes, put it back together. But before I forget, I want to mention this. I'm going to take the camera off of here. Let's see, can I switch this around? There we go. Something that is not obvious, and I don't know if it's in the brochure or not, but these are the trailing arms for the suspension, and this, rubbing my headphones on this stabilizing jack. Underneath here, underneath here, on both sides are zert fittings. These need to be lubed. There's two on the other side too. There's one here. There's one over there. Those are lube points. They do need to be greased. I don't currently know the service interval, but I'm gonna have to look that up. We'll cover that in another video coming up. If you haven't seen it under here before, let me show you around a little bit. Again, this is the Opus Light, their prototype model, on loan from the factory. You got yourself a limiting strap so that you don't overextend the suspension. Got coil spring suspension, bump stops, and then that lever you're seeing in the back with the cable, that's your parking brake. You got dual shocks on both sides. So these things are pretty well made, and this metal here is super thick. As I was just saying, is I've taken this trailer down riverbeds, hill climbs, all kinds of nasty terrain, and it just soaks it all up, unlike our normal box trailer we use. Yeah, that's uncomfortable to tow, whereas this is not so bad because this independent suspension, it just soaks it all up. In the meantime, give you my apologies. I'm going to run and grab a piece of sandpaper. Just take me just a second. I'm not running to the store. We're going to scuff all this stuff up, and then we're going to loosely reassemble it because I'm going to have to take it back apart once I go get a new seal, and I'm going to add some fresh grease, which I'm not going to have today, but at least we'll get it back together again as if we did. We can reinstall this seal like it's a new one. I can give you a crude idea on how to pack these bearings. It's pretty simple to do, and then I'll do it at a later date and try to get it on video for you. So 1 second, I'll grab a piece of sandpaper. So, sandpaper now. I want to make sure I have no excessive or no grease on my hands. Wipe them off. Sandpaper nice and clean. This is for a rotary random orbit sander, but it'll work. I'm just going to take it and lightly scuff to remove the brake dust. Any glazing. If you look at it, it's all glossy. The glossiness is no good. That'll cause squeaking. You ever heard a big truck stop and it makes that like vibrating roaring sound when it comes to a stop? They're glazed. Simple fix. Piece of sandpaper. Actually, you can kind of see some glazing here. Let's see if I can show you. It's not showing up so well on camera. Right in here, there's a little bit of shininess. And I'm not talking about shiny flakes, because there are some metallic flakes in these. Cable stopping. We want to get that all off. And yeah, I should be wearing a mask, but I'm holding my breath. Just lightly sanding this down to get a fresh, clean surface. Okay. Next, I'm going to do the same thing. The wheel around. Let's see if you can see that. Unfortunately, this does not tilt. You can see all the dust from the trails starting to build up. Just empty that onto the ground hill. Again, if you're looking for cracking and glazing for the most part, you see heat cracks, that's a sign you need to have them looked at and possibly replaced. As I said before, typically that's from too much trailer gain, the gain set too high, or just riding the brakes, forgetting to turn off the parking brake. I'm just going to scuff this up, make for better stopping, more power, and quieter stopping too. They won't get that squeaky sound. If you do replace the shoes, have these turned. When they turn them, they'll check them for the diameter to make sure they're not too, the opening, make sure it's not too big, because if it is too big, the brakes won't be able to stop. There is a legal limit to how much they can turn. You'll get a nice fresh surface that will not squeak. Alright. Okay, so I'm going to clean rag, clean out the inner bearing area one more time just to make sure there's nothing in there. Even though I'm pretty likely to be changing all the grease. What I'll probably end up doing at this point is getting the factory to send me new bearings and, well, not bearings, a new seal and then some kind of grease, cleaning these bearings with a little bit, or was it carb cleaner or some kind of solvent, and repacking them completely and putting a new seal in there just to be sure there's nothing in there, because there's nothing worse than being way off in the middle of nowhere and having problems with your wheels, whether it's the bearings, the brakes, the tires. It's no part of good. So for now, I'm just going to clean it up, and then we'll be replacing some stuff later on. Okay, so let's see how I can show you this. Can I tilt this camera somehow, I wonder? Let's see, can I turn it around? And then that one, and then maybe I can... Normally my live stream is done from inside my office, not out here. So, we're going to improvise. It's still not quite right. Oh, wait, that might work. There we go. It's probably hopefully it's not making me sick. Watching me do this here, or having my camera flop all over the place. Camera, otherwise known as my cell phone. All right, there we go. That'll work. Okay, so no, that won't work. Now it's all pissed off. How do I get you to stay? Okay, well, as long as it stays like that. Okay, so we've got the inner bearing is the bigger one. Again, I've checked it for discoloration, burn marks, flaking. Dropping that down in there. Cut myself a new piece of rag. Where did my knife go? There it is. There we go. Again, this gets really messy. I have a whole towel here that's no good anymore. Okay, I'm going to be replacing the grease, cleaning this out at some point. So I cleaned up most of the dirt, just out of habit. I'm, for right now, reusing this bearing seal, but I'm not going, before I hit the road, I'm going to be replacing the grease and replacing the seal. This is just to demonstrate, hypothetically, this is a brand new seal. Just working it around. You can take this to the shop and have them lube the bearings, pack the bearings, and press in the new seal. Not a bad idea. And then you could put it back on yourself if you wanted to. Okay, so that's flush. I'm gonna wipe it down too. These would all be sterile when I do this again, because I'm gonna spray all of this out with cleaner. Spray out the inner part of the spindle in there, the bearings, everything's gonna get clean before I put this back on, before I hit the road. Right now, we're doing an inspection because I knew there was a problem and I'm trying to figure out what it was. At this point, I'm pretty sure it's just the bearings are well out of adjustment. Okay, so let's put you back. You've seen the bearing seal. Come on now, I'm gonna make this tripod work. Tripod's smarter than me. Okay. Spindle, nice and clean. No dirt. Okay, so now, I'm just gonna go back on. This is heavy. Not light there. It's just gonna slide on there. If these are more properly, if these are properly adjusted, it'd be a little bit harder to do, and if they were grossly overly adjusted, this would be impossible to put back on. I guess I could show you that one, but I'm not going to do it. But let's see here. I guess I should take the phone out. This little device. Oh, come on now, work with me here. This is your adjustment right here. So you would turn. This is out of adjustment. What happens is this gap gets to be too small, and when you step on the brakes, only the top portion of the shoes are braking. So what you'll do is you'll spin this to make it expand to where it just starts to rub on this part of the shoe, on the front shoe and the back shoe. But there's actually a rubber, let's see if you can see that here. There it is. This little rubber piece right here pops out, and you can stick what's called a spoon inside here, and you can use it as the spoon as a lever to turn this adjustment right here. That would be how you would adjust the brakes. But again, that's one of those things, if you don't know what you're doing, you should have done, not do. Because if you do it wrong, two different things that can happen. It's one, you don't adjust it enough, and your brakes aren't as effective as they could be. Or two, you over adjust them, and you're gonna heat these brakes up the first time you go out down the road, down the freeway. They're gonna get super hot. So if you don't know how to adjust the brakes, I wouldn't do them myself for the first time. So, at any rate, I'll put this back on. There we go. Again, this is the outer bearing. This is the outer bearing. I've already checked it, like at the beginning of the live stream, for discoloration, whether it's a rainbow color, brown, black, or flaking. You don't want any of those. I did remove the excess dust that fell on there, because I'm not in a sterile environment. This is really difficult to do. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be cleaning these in a solvent tank and repacking them. Repacking them. There's two ways. There's several ways. One is to take it to a shop and have them pack the bearings. The other one is you get a nice, put on a glove, and you put a big pile of grease right here. And you take the bearing and you work the grease on pressing down and pulling out. And you'll see the grease, once it's packed, start squishing out the top. I'll rotate the bearing a little bit and do it some more, and I'll just keep going all the way around the bearing until I see little, like, fingers, if you will, of grease coming out of the top of the bearing. Then you know it's packed. I'll take a little bit extra, rub it around the bearing itself. I'll put some inside the middle of the spindle so that when centrifugal force going on the freeway will pull it outward and pull it into the bearings. But for right now, I know that I'm going to have to get factory to send me some parts. And this is their trailer. At that point, I'm going to clean everything up much more thoroughly than I'm doing now. But I needed to know if I needed just seals, just grease, just bearings, cotter pin. What did I need? At this point, I know I need a seal, I need grease, I need a cotter pin. This one's been used a couple of times. That's fine, not a problem, but I don't want to use it 4 or 5 times. If this shears off, then that castle nut can work its way out. Wheel comes off, goes flying down the road. You look out your side view or side window, and wheel will just go right past you. Not a good sight. So that washer goes in there. This castle nut. I am going to have to run off and get a wrench. I forgot that one. By run off, I mean go over there to my tool trailer and go grab them. So for now, I'm going to go finger tight and tell you to go get water refill or whatever. It just takes me about 10 seconds to go get a wrench. I'll be right back. Some tools here. So again, I'm not a full-time auto mechanic. It's been about 20-25 years since I was a full-time auto mechanic. At this point, I mostly swing a hammer. So we're going to see what works best. Personally, I'm hoping this adjustable wrench, otherwise known as a crescent wrench. Crescent's a brand name. Just like saying make me a Xerox. Xerox is a brand name. Make me a copy. That's what you're actually doing. So I'm going to go fairly snug initially. I'm going to seat these bearings. I'm just going to spin it a bunch, Make sure it's still snug. Now, look this up. Don't quote me on this one, because you do this wrong, you got problems. This is how I'm doing it. You look it up, do it your way. Now I'm going to loosen it up. Finger tight, and it doesn't line up with the hole, so I'm going to go a little bit tighter, which should not be very tight at all. And like you can see, I'm choked up on the wrench. I'm not levering out on the end. Okay. Stick the cotter pin back in here. Again, this cotter pin's being replaced. It's all funky. And this is the prototype Opus light. So it has been used and abused to test and make sure everything is working, fix whatever quirks and whatever come up. Now it's in my possession. So, and it's on loan. I didn't buy it. So, bend this over. Not hitting very hard. And then what I like to do, I like to leave this other one straight, but I'm going to cut it off. There. And then push it in. There. Now I've got one going in, one coming out for this castle nut. Bearing cap. Now, about these little bearing caps, there's I have a dust cap bearing cap on my box trailer, which is a simple 6x10 solid axle, nothing fancy. It's a $3,000 trailer. I have a rubber cap I can pull off right here with just my fingernails, and inside is a zert fitting called a bearing buddy. So every couple of thousand miles, I take my grease gun. Let's put this in here. I pop off this little rubber cap, exposing the bearing buddy zert fitting, and I use the grease gun to squirt some grease in there. So it's constantly, every few thousand miles, I'm forcing fresh grease in and out. Granted, it does leave me a nice ring of wheel bearing grease from, you know, the old grease is being forced out, but I'll take the old, having to clean up the old grease versus a wheel bearing need to be serviced every, you know, I don't need to service them nearly as often, if that makes sense. So now I'm actually going to take a rubber mallet because I don't want to dent this all up. There it is. So now I don't even have a fingernail gap around this bearing cap, dust cap, whatever you want to call it. So let's go ahead and put the tire back on, and we'll check the other side. Again, I am watching a chat over there, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in there. Please don't forget to hit the like button. I'd really appreciate it. Actually, comments are a huge help, even if it's just a hi or hello, like Luke Duplicate. Another thing to mention while I've got it off is check your tread depth. These are under a lot of stress and wear and tear, if you drive them like I do anyway. They're meant to be. So what you're going to look for is, you know, are you missing any chunks? Is there any debris or rocks or nails? But also look at your tread depth. Each tire is going to be different. In this case, if you look in between the tread right in here, there's a solid bar that's not quite as deep as the main channel in here. When that starts to become flush with this tread, these tires are no longer legal tread depth or safe tread depth, whatever you want to put it. Also, if you run into a problem where you have a flat, a tire shop won't replace the tire, or I mean, won't repair the tire if it's down to the tread bars. If it's at the minimum tread depth, at least that's in California, they won't do anything for it except sell you another tire. So there's another good reason to check your tires. Again, I've also talked about at the beginning, felt around the edge for anything that just felt funny, but I'm also looking for bulges in the sidewall, gouges in the sidewall, both no good. Have them looked at immediately. A bulge, or not, bulge is not the right term, but one that a dent, you know, a line. If you look at a tire, sometimes it'll have a line, and it'll have a little mild indent. That's okay. It's not a problem. We did talk about also in the beginning of the live stream amount of dust in here. When I actually come through here and I have a little more time, I'm gonna wipe this nicely with some cloth to keep that black finish pretty. But also the dust can cause the wheel to come a little bit out of balance. Granted, just a little bit. It takes quite a bit to throw it way out of balance. And in theory could cause premature wear of the bearings. So I'm going to pick the tire up, slide it on the spindle, line up the lug nuts. And then we're going to go to the other side. Okay. Stick a lug nut into here. Always start your lug nuts by hand. Never use an impact to start them. In fact, I don't like using an impact except to remove them. Even then I get kind of hesitant because of that last couple of threads as it's coming out. It wobbles, you could mar up those threads, and then your lug stud and your lug nut are no good. Got to have them pressed out and it's put in there. So I just start them by hand, the old-fashioned way. So I'm going to run this in until it's as tight as I can get comfortably by hand. Okay. Now, as I mentioned before, taking them off, there is no pattern. Putting them on, there is a pattern. So let me swing around. The pattern is extremely important. So you're going to go across from each other. So I just did this lug nut. Now I'm going to do this lug nut, then this lug nut, then this one, then this one, then this one. I'm going to keep going across. That'll seat the tire as I tighten it on there. I can't stress the importance of that enough. You'll seat it properly. You go in there, if you do them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and tighten them down, there is a chance it won't be seated. You'll get a mile down the road and the thing will just go like this. So I started here, now I'm going to go here, going by hand. I'm just using my fingers. That's hard for you to see, but I'll start from the top next time. And then once it snugs up, I'm going to actually grab a hold and twist it pretty tight. Stick another one in there. This time I'll go from the top so you can see a little better. So I did 1, 2, now 3. Okay, snug it up. My lug nut in there. I did that one, so I'm going to come across to here. Spin it up so you can see a little better. Okay, I'm going to go across. The next one will be here. I'll rotate it up so you can see. Okay, there we go. And then I have one more right here. No guesswork on this one. There's only one place it can go. Okay, so those are all in there. Now at this point I'm going to drop the jack. Well, not drop. I'm going to lower the jack onto the ground. We're going to use a torque wrench to torque these to the proper tightness. So here we go. Okay, so now the weight is resting on the tire. Oops. Torque wrench is under the torque block. So, get out torque wrench. I always zero mine when I'm done using it. I feel like it doesn't keep strain on the torque wrench, but on this one you pull down on the collar and then rotate to adjust. This one goes up to 150 foot-pounds. Factory told me they want these at 100 foot-pounds. If you wanted 100 foot-pounds, don't buy a torque wrench that goes to 100 foot-pounds because it won't be very accurate. Kind of like with a thermometer. If you're checking your meat and you're going to cook it to 180, you get a thermometer that goes to like 320, 340. So on and so forth. You want your, what would you call that, your goal range to be right in the middle. Same with the torque wrench. So I'm going to spin this one. Let's see, I'll see if I can show you once I get there to 100. So I'm pulling down, rotate, pull down, rotate. And 0. So you can see that. It's hard to see what you're seeing. So I'm at 100. Yeah, you can see the 100 comes down. And then there's a line, and then that line lines up with the line on the shaft or the handle here with a 0. It's 100 foot-pounds. There's a little button release on the back. Press the button, stick on the socket, but you want to line it up with the. There's a little bearing right there. There's a hole in the extension. That's loosening. Also, don't ever use a torque wrench to remove lug nuts. Use it to put them back on. Use a, oh, almost knocked you over there. Use a torque wrench. Or, I mean, breaker bar to take the lug nuts off. Use a torque wrench to put it back on. Now, there's two ways you could do this. One, you could do it this way and lift and push, or you come around from the other side. And instead of having to lift your whole body, you can press down on your body and use gravity advantage. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna tighten them in the cross pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you don't want to jar this either, because you jar it, pull it real hard, you're gonna hit. It's not gonna give you a proper reading. So I'm gonna hold the torque wrench here and pull down on the lever. And you hear it go click when it's tight. Oop, I'm in a wheel chock. But it just so happens, got that. There it was, I'm actually missing it. There it is. Okay, so now I'm going to go around and double check them. Alright, so this side's been checked. Now I know what I need. I need grease, a cotter pin, and a seal. This will be good to go. So let's move over to this side. Let's check that one out. So let's see here. We used the screwdriver, we used the hammer, rubber mallet, wrench, sandpaper, rags, breaker bar, knife to cut the rags. I'm gonna have to move the wheel chocks over here, and the jack too. Take this stuff over. Lower it down so you can see where I move the jack. See that? Yeah, you can see enough. All right. That's where it gets kind of loud. Sorry. Okay, and then again, I'll show you where I'm jacking from. Tighten the handle. And I got to move the wheel chocks and break the initial tension on the lug nuts before I lift it all the way up. Now, get it where it needs to be so I can get out from under the trailer. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now, wheel chocks. Here's something kind of interesting I found. Let's see if we can raise this up a little bit here. That's really not quite so great. I wish I could tilt this thing. Oh wait, maybe I can. If I do this, and then that. Ooh, hey, look, I figured something out. Check these out. So, not only is it a wheel chock, but it's a leveling stand. I got these from a buddy's dad the other day. So what you basically do, it's gonna be hard to demonstrate. We're gonna do a video on this real soon, but you would put this on the back side of the tire, and so pretend I'm going backwards this way, even though that's the front of the trailer. You would roll the tire up onto this, and the tire would roll up on here until the trailer's level. You take this little chock here, and you stick it under. So these will go all the way up to 4 inches of height to level your trailer out. Isn't that cool? So you go all the way down to like, I think it's an inch, half inch or something like that. Right here. So that's probably an inch and a half. Probably get less. I guess you could do it that way. I still have to find the owner's manual for these and the box because he just had these. He doesn't have any of the owner's manual, the packaging or anything, but you could go as low as something like that. But again, you would back the trailer up until it's level, stick the chalk under, and you'd be good to go. And you could level the trailer left to right, passenger side, driver's side. That's cool. So stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed already, do so, because we will be doing a video on these and then the also little plastic squares. So I'm going to move this wheel chalk to the side. There we go. But we don't want the camera getting blown over by the canopy. I have a canopy over me because I'm in the sun otherwise. So take this wheel chalk, stick it on the side of your. Okay, I'm back. So before we lift it up, we're going to have to break these lug nuts free. So I mentioned this button on the torque wrench. Push the button, then you can pull. If you don't push the button, it's locked on there. Push button, pull. Comes right off. I'm going to take a breaker bar, stick it on the extension, attached to a 19mm socket. And this, so you can leverage here or you can spin fast this way. Stick it in. Again, removing, there is no powder. You just need to get it off. I'm just going loose. I'm not taking them off because I don't want the thing to fall on the ground. Dang, I'm sorry, Opus. I meant to say the lug nuts. I don't want the Opie light to fall on the ground. Also, because it's on low. Alright, let's go up. Let me back up here. The other side I knew had free play, whereas this side I never actually checked. I knew one side did. So I automatically assumed the whole thing needs to be fixed, because if one side's bad, well, bad enough that it would cause serious issues. So we'll just assume both are really bad. So let's snug these back up. Let's see if this one wiggles too. Yeah, it does. Okay. See if I can show you. Move the camera to here. So I'm going to grab the tire at 12 and at 6, and I'm going to push in and out. So when I push in at 12, I'm going to pull out at 6, push in at 6, pull out at 12. I don't know if you can see that moving or not, but I'm sure you can hear it. Any amount of free play in wheel bearings is not good. So before my canopy blows away, I'm just going to take this side off. Might need to tie this down. Maybe someday I'll make enough on this YouTube stuff. If people will subscribe, I'll make money and I can actually get a shot. Hint, hint. Subscribe. Okay, take them all the way off. I also forgot my rag to put everything on. Got a little rag here that I'm putting everything on. All the parts. Wheels like that. faster, but just worry about messing up threads, and then I spend the rest of the day finding the new studs and lug nuts and finding a shop to press them in. And, you know, what's it gonna save you? 30 seconds or a minute to cost you like 4 hours? No, thank you. Better things to do. Try and shortcut. Now, what I did last time, I'm gonna check the tread, look for gouges, missing pieces, nails, holes from rocks. I'm also gonna run my hand over it and feel the wear. I want it to be nice and flat. If you feel cupping, or you see one side's worn more than the other, those are signs you need to take it in and have it looked at. Wheel bearings will cause it to cup. Usually heavy wear on the inside or out is alignment out, which you can't have fixed. And I'm going to feel and visually observe the outside. Lumps that go outward, not a good thing. Small dents that go in, not a big deal. Looking for gouges from rocks. Check the inside. And rub my hand, go for the feel, but I'm also going to visually inspect the chunks missing. I'm going to assess how much dust is in here while I have it off. When I do this more in depth, I'm actually going to wash all of this. When I do get the new parts, I will live stream that also. So if you're not subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell. So when I do that, you'll get notified. Because I will pack the bearings on live, so you can ask me questions. I will install the seal properly. We'll do it more sterile. We'll actually clean everything up. And do it properly, whereas this is just a visual inspection to find out what parts I need. So when I'm done with this, I can tell the factory, hey, I need these parts. So far it's a seal, grease, cotter pin. I think that's it. So anyway, we'll formulate this when we're all done, have them send us the parts, and I'll show you how to put them in. Alright, let's cut off a new piece of rag. Tell I'm precisely measuring that. Oops. Oops. There we go. So now, clean this whole area up. So I want to try and keep it somewhat clean, save us some work later when we go clean the inside and repack everything. Less I have to clean up. There we go. So, let's take this dust cap off. Put this stuff on this here. Work it off slowly. This shouldn't be hard. You shouldn't have to force it. Now that I've got the screwdriver in, I can twist. Rotate it down. Twist. This is just working it off. There we go. Alright. I got the needle over here. I guess I grabbed the channel locks on accident. We're getting new cotter pins, so who cares? And it's okay to use these once, twice, whatever, but I don't know how many times these have been reused, so I'm going to ask for new ones. I'll find out the hard way, going down the freeway, that they're defective or been used too many times. You know, it's also just having them in place, just cut it off. There. Close up, brother. One thing I will get lazy about is having them replaced. So, this does not come off the yep, it comes off by hand. Somehow these weren't adjusted right by whoever did them or whatever. I shouldn't be able to take it off that easy. Spin off the castle nut. There, set that on the rag so we can junk in there. Now I'm going to wiggle the drum a little bit because this washer's going to come out in the bearing, and I don't want it to fall on the ground. There they are. Okay, so there's the outer washer bearing. Set that in the towel. Okay, here's our first inspection of the wheel bearing. Again, what I'm looking for is like a rainbow color or pattern. flaking or burn marks, like it be black or brown. All I'm seeing is shiny, what looks like chrome. Sorry, I'm trying to actually look at this and try to show you at the same time. And some grease that's kind of dirty, but not excessively dirty. I think we're just going to clean these and put them back in there. Right, wipe the hand off. This is a really dirty process. Okay, at this point we can pull the drum all the way off. There we go. Set it on the ground carefully. Some of these drums, the wheel studs actually stick past this spindle portion, and if you sit it down too hard, you can damage the threads on the lug studs. All right. Now there's some glazing. We can show you that. There we go. Let's get this drum more out of the way. Oh, there we go. Okay, so see this here? It's all shiny. That's the glazing I was talking about. That kind of stuff will affect your braking and cause them to squeak. So we're going to clean that up. That's super simple. So for now, let's take this rag and finish it off. Let's grease out of here. Dust off. Just nice and clean. And then we're taking this all apart again as soon as we get the parts, and that's when we're going to hose down everything and make sure it's all super clean. Right now, we're just all pretty clean. Let me grab the sandpaper. Like I said, real light. We'll remove the dust, remove the glazing. Yes, I should have a dust mask on. I'm glad this isn't back in like the 20s when we had asbestos in here. I'm done. Just gonna lightly remove the glazing. Do not use a power sander on this. You regret that. Also, make sure your hands are pretty clean. You don't want any grease on there when you're sanding this down, because you get grease in here, you're done. There is some grease in the back. Just gonna take it off the sandpaper. Again, it will result in better stopping and quieter stopping too. If you weren't around for the beginning part of the live stream, what you're going to look for on the wheel drum shoes, these are called shoes, not pads. Look here, look here. You want to have about the same amount of material here and here, here and here. If it's an uneven amount, you should have them checked to see if they can be adjusted and to make them more evenly wear, or if it's too far gone, you should just have the shoes replaced. As I also mentioned before, let's see if we can tilt this some more. Now let me know this thing tilts. Right here is your self-adjust. Well, it's not a self-adjuster. On a car, it would be a self-adjuster, or vehicle would be a self-adjuster, but this right here is how you adjust the drum brakes. In the backing plate, this is the backing plate here, there's a rubber cap that comes off, and you can stick what's called a spoon in there. It's a short little pry bar that's got two different angles on it. One's almost 90, one's about a 22.5. And you can stick it in here and lever off this backing plate to rotate this adjustment to make sure. Do you want these to be as close to, how would you say, you're going to move them out so that when the brakes push out, the whole thing, you want all of this surface area. See which one's which. This one. You want all of this surface area to as evenly touch the drum as possible. And when it gets out of adjustment, the further it gets out of adjustment, the less and less, let's see, it'd be down here, less and less of this material is going to be in contact with the drum. If you get it really bad, I've seen them be as little as 30% actually touching the drum, 70% not doing anything. Just along for the ride, having fun. So if you see uneven wear, take that in and have it looked at. Okay. Let's get the inner bearing out of here, and I'm going to pry this out, and it's going to make this seal not good to put back in. Yes, I'm wearing the worst of my clothing, because this kind of work just gets grease everywhere. It's foul. So, sticking the pry bar, hammer, whatever I got, in between the bearing and the seal, and I'm going to pry out. I'm not going to pry against the bearing. I'm going to pry out because this is just very thin sheet metal and it'll just pop right out of here. Here it comes. There it is. And I did get some grease right here, so we can get that out of here. Keep it clean. But this is the inside of your seal, outside, and the part that contacts the drum, now garbage. Alright, there we go, that's better. Okay, let's pull out the bearing. Yes, I got some dirt on it, but I'm going to be cleaning it and repacking it. So I'm looking for the same thing I did on the outer bearing. I'm looking for discoloration, looking for pitting, chipping, flaking, anything that looks out of the ordinary. I'm not seeing anything. Next, put this out of the way. We're going to check the races. That's what mounts inside the drum that the bearings run on. And like the car goes around a track, bearing goes around the racetrack, bearing's going to go around the races on the inside of the drum. So same thing here. I'm going to be looking at the surface area in here and looking for cracks, pitting, chipping, flaking, discoloration. I'm not seeing any, so let's flip it on over. There's a little discoloration on that one. Maybe you can see that, but so I think we're going to ask for an outer bearing on this one because the bearing will come with a new race. Just because I'm not 100% sure, and that's what I don't like, is I'm not 100% sure. Lastly, we'll take that same piece of sandpaper, check for grease, and I'm going to sand the drum, get rid of any glazing that's on the drum, and then we're going to check it for heat cracks. This one I'm being more aggressive with the sandpaper because it's iron, whereas this friction material on the shoes is pretty, you can over sand it really easily. Okay, so now I'm going to be looking for heat cracks that run any direction, or any really bad glazing. Glazing for the most part, if there wasn't, it's definitely gone now. But heat cracks, cause of heat cracks to be brakes that are overly adjusted, so the Opus would be doing a lot of the braking for the vehicle instead of the Opus braking only for itself. Being on the brakes too much. So one saying that has been taught to me is if you're on the brakes as much as you're off the brakes, you're on them too much. Or leaving your parking brake on and forgetting to release it before you drive away. That will prematurely wear the shoes, but also overheat the shoes and the drums. Again, if you see cracking, tilt this back up. If you see any sort of heat cracks or stress marks in the shoes, have them looked at, because what can happen is they'll delaminate and come apart while you're driving, and that would be bad because you'd have no brakes. So at this point, let's put it back together, because again, I am going to be thoroughly cleaning these in another live stream. Now that I know what parts I need, I can go get them. I don't have time today to go find the parts and completely clean these bearings and then repack them, but I will be doing that on a live stream, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you can watch me pack these bearings if you want to, and we'll install a new race and whatever else. So bearing, I'm just setting it down in there. Again, now that I have removed this seal, it is no good anymore, but it's good enough to just sit here in my driveway until I get the parts. So we're going to install that, and we'll give you some idea of how you install a seal. Get some of this grease off my hands. I'll try and stay somewhat clean here. Okay, just going to work my way around until it's seated. Well, this one's been bent a bit. I'm just gonna, there we go, persuade it back into place. Okay, wipe down this grease because we do not want any grease on the drum. Well, on the drum where the braking happens. Let's see here. We don't want any grease on the drum surface where the brake pad touches or shoes touch it, and we don't want any on the brake shoe material either. That would be bad. So at this point, give it one more scan for grease. Looks like I can get rid of a little bit more dust. I live on an old driveway, so doing that isn't the end of the world. If you set this drum down like I just did here I just gently on the ground, it will leave pretty much a permanent ring on your driveway. Don't do that. My driveway is really old, I don't care so much. And pretty much everybody in my neighborhood works on cars. So now lift the drum back up on. Be careful not to touch the shoe with my disgusting hands that are covered in grease, because then you've got another problem. Okay. So I'm going to take the outer bearing, slide it onto the spindle. Okay, I'm going to push on the drum, make sure it's seated, push on the bearing, make sure it's seated. Take this washer here, wipe it down. No, I don't go boop when I close the fridge, by the way. Put this washer back on the spindle, take a castle nut. Okay, and then I'm going to take the wrench, the adjustable wrench, not a crescent wrench. It's not a Xerox, it's a copy. This is a crescent wrench, it's a brand name. Adjustable wrench is what it actually is. How would you say that? A little trade joke? If you want to be funny with somebody who's a mechanic or a plumber or whatever, ask them if they have an adjustable wrench in metric, right-handed or left-handed. Either way it works, because they're right and left-handed, they're ambidextrous, and they're metric and standard. So if it's a metric person, you could ask them for a standard size. So again, I'm going to go pretty snug, but I'm choking up. I'm not grabbing it at the end. Pretty snug. Just going to seat the bearings, and these truck's going to come home. But he's awesome. He lent me this jack, so thank you, Rick. I'm going to loosen it back up. I'm going just past finger tight, spin it again. Okay, now my hole is, let's see, going pretty much this way. And you can see it's hitting this with the castle nut, so we're going to tighten it up to where the hole that goes through the spindle for the cotter pin, I can put a cotter pin through, and I'm only going as tight as I have to. Okay. And I'm sticking a cotter pin back in, and this is where I would fold the cotter pin over if it was a new one and tuck the other end in and cut it off. But I'm taking this all apart, so I'm going to be redoing it all. But right now I'm just putting it back so it doesn't get dirt, crap, or corruption. However long it takes Chelsea and me to send me new bearings and parts, or a new seal and whatnot. So dust cap, and the other maybe 2 minutes of the freeway back. And then I'm going to take the rubber mallet, not the hammer, and dent the heck out of this cap. Should go on further easy, doesn't it? Again, I'm choked up pretty high. Just smacking it away. Anyway. Alright, so that's back on. Good to go. The other thing to show you again, if you weren't here earlier, which was not pointed out to me, I found out on my own, which I understand a lot of you do already know, is, come on, camera, stand up, is these little lube points. This is the front leading edge of the trailing arms underneath these little caps. There we go. There's a Zert fitting grease gun. You need to grease these. There's one here, little dust cap. So you would, maybe I should just say it real quick. Pull this off, wipe it down with a rag so you don't squish grease into there. Put your grease gun on here, squirt it full of grease, wipe it down again. Your cap goes back on, and then there's another one on the other side over here. Same thing, pull it off, wipe it down, grease it, wipe it down, put the cap back on, and there's 2 more on the other side. If you want to do that yourself, that's great. I'll put a link in the description down below so you can support this channel by ordering a grease gun on Amazon. So let's see, where are we? I guess the only other thing is point out a couple things. We'll put the wheel back on and then call it a day for now. Send them an email what I need. Here's your parking cable, parking brake cable. Since I've had this, I did have to adjust it once before. Cables, they stretch, it happens. So if you find that you're pulling your parking brake all the way up to where it's almost vertical and the Opus is still rolling, you need to adjust it. It's pretty simple. There's a nut in the back of the lever that you just loosen the set screw or set nut, and then tighten the adjustment nut, and then tighten the set nut back on there, and you're good to go. Any questions, take it into a shop, it's better off. Also, occasionally, these drum brakes are not like a car where they don't self-adjust. On the older cars, you go in reverse and just hit the brakes real hard and they would self-adjust. These don't do that. So you are going to have these adjusted on occasion. It's not that hard. I would encourage you to check it out on YouTube or whatever else and learn how to do it. I can do it. I'm very comfortable doing it. I'm just kind of questioning whether I have the ability to explain it properly to where you're not over-adjusting these and cooking your brakes. So look up what what'd you call it? Drum brake adjusting tool or a spoon, and you can learn how to adjust these yourself. It's really not that hard once you get the hang of it. Check it out. And yeah, I am a little guy on YouTube. I make like $10 a month, so if you are going to order something on Amazon, use the link down below. Helps me out. Every little buck matters, because I'm not getting paid for this. I might make 25 cents in the next 6 months off this video. Okay, so here's the tire rim. Again, we've checked the tread. We've checked the sidewall inside and out for any abrasions, any marks, bulges. And when I clean the bearings, I will be wiping the inside of the rim to keep the dust down, because generally mud will build up and cause the tire to be off balance. You know, like tire weights, well, big chunks of mud will be the same thing. If you go through some thick mud and it sticks on the inside, and it dries, it'll be out of balance. Whereas, like, if you go through some thick mud and then you drive it really fast, it will kind of level itself out or even itself out, and it won't be a big deal. But otherwise, it can be. Just, you know, ounce of prevention, pound of cure kind of thing. Maybe I'm giving you too much food for thought, but whatever. Alright, so tire goes back on. Now, this part applied to changing a spare. If you don't know about how to change a flat tire in Opus, you can consider this part of the video changing your spare. So we've removed the dead tire. We're putting on the fresh spare tire. Okay. Now, I would discourage you from putting your legs under the trailer in case it falls, but I'm more comfortable. So we have our lug nuts on a rag to keep them off the ground and clean. Let's move the camera down. I haven't checked the chat in a little bit. Maybe I should do that here in a minute. I'm sorry about that. And I'm going to start these by hand. If you want to run them in with a impact, that's fine, but start them, at least do 2 or 3 threads before you use the impact. But I don't have the right words to discourage you properly or enough to not use an impact on the lug nuts. That couple of minutes, or not even couple minutes, few seconds, it's going to save you a world of heartache if you do it wrong. So look, I'm just using the tip of my finger to start these lug nuts. It's getting windy. I hope the wind noise isn't too bad. These are what I'm using for audio, and they don't have wind offers. So. Okay, now I'm going to go as snug as I can with my hand. Now, I'm going to do them opposite. I did this before. I'll show you again. Actually, let me go check the chat. Let's move this so I can show you the pattern, because it does matter how you do this. You do it wrong and your tire will likely come off. Sorry to sound so threatening and ominous, but it is true. Just did this one. Now I'm going to do this one. I'm going to go across. This works for cars, all trailers, anything that goes down the freeway, the highway, the street, whatever. You go across, whether it's 4 lug nuts or 8 lug nuts or 12 lug nuts. On our diesel truck we have 8. This has 6. Can go across. So I did this one, come down to here, I'm going to start it with my fingers. So we're putting on, we could say we're putting on the spare tire right now. We just had a flat, we're putting a new tire on. Now I'm going to go as tight as I can by hand. Getting another lug nut. Ding. Now I don't go poop when I close the fridge. Just trying to keep this live stream friendly and keep you watching. Really tight. Now I want the opposite over here. Doing it with my fingers to start it. Now is when you could pull it off and run an impact and drive it in there. Using an impact on drum brakes is not as big a deal, but if you use an impact on a disc brake setup and you don't have your lug nuts evenly torqued, you will warp the disc brake. Fun fact. Okay. Down. Drop another one in. Opposite. Okay. Make sure it's snug. So now when I do this, I have no free play. None. And I said this when I started the other live stream. I still have one more lug nut out there. You spin it. It should only go around, I think it's 3 rotations. How do I, anyway. And then come to a stop. That's one indication of properly adjusted brakes. The other one is you should hear it going sh, 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 as the tire goes around. That's my pant. All I hear is the wind blowing over the tire camera. All I hear is my pant leg rubbing on it. So this one's out of adjustment. I will have to adjust it. I don't know. Maybe I'll do it on a live stream, but I'm worried about liabilities. And we thought on Bluebeard Adventures, he showed me how to adjust the brakes. And again, you can do it. It's not that hard, and it does need to be done. It's periodic maintenance. You know, like change the oil in your car. Don't blame Opus saying, "Oh, Opus sold me a trailer tire. Brakes need to be adjusted." Yeah. Sorry, nothing you can do about that one. Get a disc brake modification. You won't have to ever adjust them. But when you figure out that modification, please let me know, because I definitely want to live stream that one and share it with everybody. Because disc brakes on the Opus, please. So another fun fact. Drum brakes have more stopping power than disc brakes, but they heat up faster because they have more surface area. Disc brakes will run cooler, but not stop as much. So you still see a lot of like heavy duty tractor trailer, semi trucks, Mack truck, whatever they're called. They still run drum brakes because they have more stopping power. But those guys are really good with their brakes. They have, they have Jake brakes. In our diesel truck, we have a exhaust brake. So I am still running on the original brake pads, and I've got almost 160,000 miles. It's because you downshift and turn on the exhaust brake. Barely even notice this Opus is back here, especially at 3,000 pounds. I'm ready to pull, I think it's 17,000 pounds. I don't even notice this thing. Okay, so make sure at this point I put them all in. I'm just double checking they work some go around. Changing the spare tire, putting it back on after bearing change. Now I'm going to go over to the jack and lower this, not drop it, because drop it makes it seem like, damn, it looks cool, but pretty hard on your stuff. So lower, don't drop. Hopefully you don't blow over in the wind. I'll just kind of scooch over. Okay, you're completely on the ground. Now, as I said before, let's get this back over here. Torque wrench. 1/2-inch drive, torque wrench. Never use a torque wrench. Let's see if I can get in the camera. Never use a torque wrench to remove lug nuts. Only use a torque wrench to put them on. This is a precision tool that is calibrated. This one, I just showed it earlier. If you want to watch, roll back and see the other tire, we did the other side in this live stream too. You pull this collar back, and you can rotate this bottom handle to line it up to. Opus wants the Opus light to be. How should I say this? When I was at the factory and picked this trailer up, they said if I ever have to change the lug nut or change the tire, you want to torque the lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds. So, let's see if you can see it here. It's really hard to tell, but there's 100, and then there's a line that goes down to this vertical line, and then I have the 0 mark lined up with my vertical. I'm at 100 foot-pounds. This is what's known as a breakaway. So when I get to the right torque, you hear it go click. There are other ones that have the main shaft that flexes and then another rod that indicates where you're actually torqued to. Those are swell, but not. I find those great for like head gaskets and things that are really precise. So here we go. And my wife and kid just got home, so they might come by and say hi. Nope. Okay. So, as I said before, we're gonna do the same thing now. We're gonna go across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I'm gonna hold this. I'm gonna push down with this. Now I could bring it over here and I could lift, but why lift? Then I'm having to use my own strength versus using my body weight. Gravity. So I'm gonna bring the wrench back over here. I'm gonna push down. You hear it go click when it's adjusted, when it's tight. There it is. That's 100 foot-pounds. And I do have wheel chocks on the other side. Also notice I'm going smooth. I'm not wham. That's not the right way to do this. Go slow. That wheel chock's moving, so we'll take this level. Okay. Don't know which one I did last, but as long as I go across. Okay. That's one I did. Which one did I miss? That one's done. Now there's one. There's the dog. So I got them. Just count. Okay. So let's double check this one. 1, 2, 3. Oh, there it was. Ooh, there was one. 4, 5, and 6. So now I'm going to zero this back out. I'm going to go to 0. I'm not going to go past it or whatever the lowest number is. Because again, these are calibrated. There it is. It just bottomed out. So I go back up a little bit, press the button, pull them out off. So, see here, tilt you back up. Feel free to reach out with any questions or comments. I'm learning to be an Opus expert. Some grease, I wonder where that came from. If you don't have these tools and want them, I'll throw a link down in the description where you can get them. They're not that expensive, good to have. I'll throw them in the description like the grease gun, so you can lube the suspension underneath, because not everybody knows about those lube points. Also, I have the lock and roll hitch on here. There is a needle point, lube point. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. Anyway, you need a needle point for that one. So I'll link to those in the description. If you want to order them, you can help this channel out by ordering them. I know most people order from Amazon anyway, so why not order from my link and help a guy out? I appreciate it. So I'm going to clean this up at this point. I'm going to get an outer bearing and race for this side, a seal for both sides, and grease. I'm going to come back on another live stream, so don't forget the like is appreciated, but subscribe and the bell to be notified when I do clean these bearings thoroughly, clean the brakes thoroughly, clean the hub or spindle hub area thoroughly, and I'll repack the bearings by hand on a live stream so you can see how that's done. If you're a do-it-yourself kind of person and want to know how to do it, I will be doing that live, I would hope, in less than a week, because I'll take this Opus back out. It's been, actually, last weekend I was out with it, but it started to go through withdrawals. I live next to a busy street. I work 5 days a week. I want to go away. Borrow this Opus for a reason. So that's part of it, is to bring you content. So I'm trying to bring you a lot of Opus content. We will be starting another channel here at some point, specifically for Opus and about Opus trailers. We do live streams on a semi-regular basis. All the topics. I think the next one we're talking about is towing safety and tips. We'll be talking at some point about tow rigs, modifications that other people have done to their Opus trailers, and I'm not talking specifically the Opus Lite, Opus 2, the Opus 4. I hope at some point the Opus 15 and the 13, all of them I get my hands on, do some talking with the factory about going down to their facility and doing some videos and live streams directly from the factory also. So stay tuned. As soon as I start on the channel, I will be announcing that right away. And again, we're trying to bring more and more Opus content. I did actually, we're working on right now a suspension video where we talk about the limiting straps, the trailing arms, the tires, the shocks, and then actually I have some undercarriage video footage that I shot driving down some really gnarly terrain. I put a GoPro underneath. We got a video coming out about the lock and roll hitch, about how to hook it up, how to use it for lowered vehicles, raised vehicles, and some video of it going down the road also. Lots of content coming up. We're gonna get some more how-tos and mods. And if you, oh, that's nothing. If you have a suggestion on what you'd like to see in a live stream or a video, please shoot me a message, leave a comment down below, and I'll do my best to get it out there and bring you that content. If you have questions, feel free to leave them down there. I do know a couple people with Opuses, wink wink, and do talk to the factory on a regular basis. So if you want your questions answered, you can send them this way, and I'll do my best to help you out. In the meantime, if our trails do cross, stop me and say hello. I love to meet new people. So, meantime, this is my first live stream from my phone. I'm not even sure how I turn it off. So, like, subscribe, comment, bell, all that stuff. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Bye-bye. Not sure how I ended this live stream. Are you sure you want to? Yes, I am sure.